Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beth Grundy, and I'm one of the priests here at Grace Cathedral, and it is my very great privilege and honor to welcome you to this event today. It's one that we have really been looking forward to for a long time, and I think we're all pretty excited that it's happening. It is, of course, the 50th anniversary celebration of Vince Guaraldi and his Jazz Mass. And I just want to say to all of you how happy we at Grace Cathedral are to be able to host this event and others like it in this wonderful venue, which gives us a chance to really serve the community who are passionate about the arts, and also to collaborate with groups like the Jim Martinez Trio and the special 50th anniversary concert choir here today. Just a word about Grace Cathedral. It is a house of prayer for all people, and as I imagine most of you know, it is a center for the arts and for culture for San Francisco and the environs, and we are proud of every bit of what Grace Cathedral is and does. And if you'd like to find out more about the cathedral, events at it, or how you might be involved, please do sign up for our cathedral highlights, which you can do at our website. And also, in order to help us continue to support programs like this throughout the year, any donations that you make on your way out in any of the boxes for any amount will be so gratefully received. Before I hand the microphone over, I'd like to ask you to join me in acknowledging some particularly special guests today. First of all, I want you to know that singing today in the chorus are several members of the original 1965 chorus. And in the audience are also several members of that chorus. That is wonderful for us to know that you are here. I also would like to acknowledge two members of the clergy who were instrumental in making that 1965 event happen. First of all, the Reverend Charles Gompertz. And the Reverend David Crump, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, David. Once again, many, many thanks to you for joining us today. And now, please join me in welcoming Vince Guaraldi's biographer, Derek Bang. Derek?
Mother never told me there'd be a day like this. Two announcements before we go any further. Cell phones, turn them off, please. Or God will reach down and smite thee. Also, with respect to cell phones, we don't mind photographs, but please, no flash. Okay, let's step into the Wayback Machine. Take you back to the 1950s. Vince Guaraldi spent that decade working in a variety of combos, most famously and for the greatest period of time in several different combos headed by Cal Chater. But he also toured twice with Woody Herman. He was part of the Third Thundering Herd, toured the United States in 1956, went over to London in 1959. Now, during this same time period, he fronted a couple of his own albums on the Fantasy label, where he had a 3-record contract. Unfortunately, neither album sold very well, and his contract was severed after the second album. Then on December 21st, 1959, fate intervened for the first time when a foreign film opened in the United States, Black Orpheus. It hit San Francisco immediately, being one of the big movie cities. Guaraldi saw the film several times, fell in love with it, decided that he wanted to cut an album with his arrangements of the wonderful bossa nova themes contained in the film that were written by Antonio Carlos Jobim and Louis Bonfant. That's not what it sounded like. He put together 4 tunes, enough to fill one side of an album, tried to sell it to Columbia Records, they turned him down. Knew somebody at Capitol Records, they turned him down. Having no place else to go, he went back to Fantasy, where Fantasy co-owner Max Weiss said, okay, we'll give you a 1-record contract, but you'll have to pay for the studio time. Guaraldi cut the album. Now there was only enough music from the Black Orpheus film to fill the first side. So on the second side of the album, he put 4 more tunes. His covers of a couple of pop classics of the time, and then 2 original compositions. One of them was called Amaville, and one of them was called Cast Your Fate to the Wind. When it was time to prepare the 45 single, which would be sent out to radio stations to help promote the album, Samba de Orpheus was placed on the A side, and that left the B side to fill. Now Guaraldi wanted Cast Your Fate to the Wind on the B side. Max Weiss did not. According to Guaraldi's drummer at that time, Jerry Brunelli, Guaraldi threw a fit. Stood on top of Max Weiss's desk, started breaking things. Max finally relented. I don't know if that's apocryphal or not, but it makes a good story. So, the album and the single come out in April of 1962. The album did okay. On the jazz charts at least. The single went nowhere for several months. And then an enterprising DJ in Sacramento, California, not too far from where we live right now, got that single, played the A side, thought it was kind of nice, flipped it over, played the B side, really liked the buzz of the title, Cast Your Fate to the Wind. Put it on, played it a lot. Wound up playing it as often as he could get away with, given the very strict parameters at the time of how often you could play a given pop song. The song began to gain traction. Now you need to put this into context. Not until December 21st of that year did the song enter the Billboard charts at number 127. At that point in time, it had been out and in rotation for 2/3 of a year. Think about that. I mean, today, songs hit. If they don't hit in the first week, they're gone. So the song began to climb. It finally peaked on February 16th at number 22, by which time Fantasy had to acknowledge, and in fact took out trade magazine advertisements to this effect, that after 13 and a half years in business, they finally had a hit. The song was nominated for a Grammy Award in a category that lasted only 7 years, Best Jazz Instrumental Composition, and on May 15th, it won the award. Guaraldi sadly was not allowed to attend the Grammy celebration because he had forgotten to pack his tux. The Grammy was mailed to him after he got back to San Francisco. By the middle of 1963, the song was being heard all the time, which leads me very nicely to what happened next, which we can indeed consider an act of fate. And to pick up that part of the story, I'd like to introduce and have you welcome the Reverend Charles Gompertz.
Thank you, Derek. Derek was talking about miracles. Look around you at this moment. Look around you. You are surrounded by people who are here to celebrate something that happened 50 years ago. I'll give or take a couple, 51, 52 years ago in 1965. We worked on it for about a year or so, year and a half. We're delighted to see David Crump here tonight. He was one of the people that we leaned on. He was the celebrant. I knew that I would have to spend that evening as a gopher, running around taking care of little details. But just to tie in to what Derek just said, I read in the Chronicle one morning that James Pike, the then Bishop of California, wanted to hold a holy hootenanny hosted by the youth of the Diocese of California to celebrate really the first Anglican communion finished in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, I was 27 years old, still pretty wet behind the ears, and I was looking at the newspaper with the bishop, with this group of young people sitting here. They were sitting on this, right around the altar, actually. And here's the bishop saying they're going to do a holy hootenanny. And I thought, oh no. So Saturday morning, I called the bishop's office, and he was there. I knew he had a perfectly good answering machine, as almost no one did, but he was there. So I told him I didn't think, I'm 27 years old. I told him I didn't think, I'd been ordained 2 years. Gosh, you know everything by then, right? I told him that I didn't think a holy hootenanny was really in keeping with the grandeur that you have around you at this moment. And he agreed. And he said, fine, Chuck. Fill up the cathedral. I'll give you a date in May. I'll let you know. Bye. I thought, what have I done? My career is over, I'm finished. And then on the radio from the other room came, cast your fate to the wind. And I thought, yes indeed, sir, that's what I just did. And so from that beginning, it occurred to me that what did we want to do? We wanted to create an experience that people would remember. It had to be new, it had to be different, but it had to be in keeping with the grandeur of this space and our liturgy. It had to be a spiritual link to this cathedral. A spiritual link to this cathedral. It had to be a spiritual link to daily life, not divorced from it. And finally, it had to lift Christian worship to a different place. Now, I'd heard that the Brits, our dear cousins across the water, those Anglicans, were experimenting with something they called a jazz mass. And I thought we could do that too. And to make a long story short, read Derek's book. Vince Guaraldi at the piano, it's perfect. And There's a wonderful blog David McFadden has written about the history of how everything came about, which is a pretty exciting story in some ways. But what did we do? Here we are, trying to do something really different. Well, some of you may have noticed that much, now this is 1965, the church, all of them, all of us, were change adverse, to put the best face on it. To bring jazz into the church was not something that was done. Particularly Episcopalians, of course, were such nice people. And to bring jazz into the church. But we did. And so, by way of conclusion, I'd like to say, it is my firm belief that one, it is a miracle that we are here today. We are here, it's a miracle. Now, because Vince created the first jazz mass in America, and we did it right here, other people jumped on the bandwagon, and oh my, about 8-9 months later, Duke Ellington was here. I seem to have missed his 50th anniversary. Count Basie was here soon thereafter. I seem to have missed his 50th anniversary too. You know, it's amazing. You're here. You're here 51 some odd years after the event. And it's my prayer, and one of the reasons that, you know, I got to pick the hymns. And one of the reasons you will find in one of the hymns, and they're going to do it this morning or this afternoon, is Come Holy Ghost. Listen to the words when the choir sings them. That is an invocation. That is conjuring up the Spirit of the Lord to be among us and touch our lives. May it be ever thus. Thank you.
How about some music, huh? Let's give a very warm welcome to the Jim Martinez Trio. Jim Martinez on piano. Ryan Clark on bass. Tim Metz on drums. And before they start, Jim has a big stack of absolutely fabulous CDs in the front that he would love to sell to some of you after you've decided how much you enjoy what you're about to hear now. So please do take the opportunity when we're all finished to take a look at that table and pick up a few items. Fellas, get it.
Thank you so much. I wanted to open up with Jesus Loves Me because it's a segue from what we just heard into what we're about to hear. So first of all, give a big hand for Brian Clark on bass. Brian is from Sacramento, or Stockton area, and my drummer, Tim Metz. So when I'm talking about a segue, about, 25 years ago, 30 years ago when I started playing jazz, I just turned 50. So I've been a professional jazz pianist most of my life, and we're still working at it. It's a tough thing to do. But one night, I was sitting at the piano, and it was probably about the year in 1999 or 2000, and I started playing Just a Closer Walk with Thee on the piano. And these Bill Evans chords started coming out. I didn't set out to do this, it just happened. And I thought, well, I better grab my pencil. So I started writing down the arrangement, and then the next night I did it again. And I played another hymn, and the same feel, genre, and I wrote out another thing. And I got on my knees at the piano because I knew something was exciting to me. And so after about a week, I had material to do a whole record. And I recorded it. Coincidentally, someone said, that's the National Day of Prayer. I thought, well, it's a great coincidence to have. And what I'm trying to say is, through gospel hymns and jazz, I didn't know anything about this event. And ironically, I was born 3 weeks after this concert. I was born June 20th, 1965, and this concert was towards the end of May, I believe. And so I think this is amazing. I'm 50 also, so is this event. But I spent many years traveling to churches with 4 gospel jazz CDs and playing with all denominations, all sizes, from 50 people to, down at Saddleback in Southern California, like 35,000 people. Crazy. But I met amazing people along the way. And one of the gentlemen is right here in the front row. His name is Bill Carter. He's a Presbyterian minister and an amazing jazz pianist. And I used to attend his Jazz in the Church conferences in New York. And so he flew out from Philadelphia. And we're going to talk more about Bill in a little bit. But doing this ministry of playing jazz in the church, and some people might say, well, gee, why do you want jazz in the church? And I say, in the Bible it says, make a joyful noise. And I don't know many more joyful noise than jazz for me. And how many concerts I've done where I've said, Lord, do what you want with this concert. And I've met countless amount of people that said to me afterwards, I didn't like church. I didn't want to come back, but someone dragged me to come to hear you tonight. And I think it's going to be okay. I think I'm going to come back. That's not me, that's not jazz, that's God. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I'm honored to be here. And when I knew this event was coming up this year, I called Grace Cathedral, and Rebecca Nessel was so amazing with open arms to say, let's do it. And Bill came, and Derek is here, and Chuck is here, and it is a miracle. So thank you. So I wanted to open with Jesus Loves Me because I want to give him the honor. Now what we're going to do is I have a new CD that Derek mentioned. It's a tribute to Guaraldi, Charles Schultz, and Peanuts. We're going to play some tracks, we're going to have some fun, and then we'll bring our choir up and we're going to do the music from the original Jazz Mass. The first song I'm going to play is a song I wrote for Derek. He's introduced me to a lot of great people, including the original musicians. I played with Vince Guaraldi on Charlie Brown Christmas and other things. And speaking of that, this concert in 1965, the drummer was Lee Charlton. He's sitting right here to my right. So it's an honor to have him. And yes, he's going to come play a song with us later. But I had a chance to play with Eddie Duran and Colin Bailey and just some great musicians that played with Vince too, and I'm going to add Lee to that list. No, actually, yes I am. We're going to play together. So the first song I wrote is for Derek. It's called Bang, and then we're going to go right into my favorite song called Samba de Snoopy. Thank you, thank you. The next one we're going to do is called Blues for Beagles. Now, a lot of you may or may not know there's a movie coming out this November. It's called the Peanuts movie. It's going to be in 3D, and it's kind of the modern CGI graphics, if you know what that means. And I was at Beagle Fest about 3 years ago. Thanks to Derek, I was able to meet Mrs. Schultz. And the story goes real quickly. In 1994, see, I was about 65, a young kid still, I hope. And I was coming out with my first CD, and I wanted Snoopy to be on the cover. The story goes that, I used to collect the Peanuts comics out of the newspaper, and I would cut them out and paste them in binders. Even though I bought the books, I still did this as a hobby. And during Little League fundraisers where you collect newspapers, I would sit in the bin and I would just look for the ones I didn't have. And so I approached, first of all, right around that same time, my mom, who is right here in the second row, raise your hand. My mom. My dad's in the back. They've been very supportive. But my mom went back to school when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And she had a class with one of Charles Schultz's neighbors. And my mom loves to brag about her boy, and I love that. And so one day she came home with a picture of Schroeder playing the piano, and it said, "To Jimmy," from Charles Schultz. And it's still next to my piano to this day, framed. And so that was when I was a little kid. In 1994, when I'm coming up with my first album, I'm an adult by now, I called their office and told them the story. And I said, how can I get Snoopy on the cover of my CD? And I talked to the vice president, and he said, well, send us your tax returns. Now, I'm in my 20s, I was making nothing, literally, but I said it anyway. And so they set up a meeting. I went down to Santa Rosa, they heard my music, and to make a long story short, which is probably too late at this point, I said to him, well, this is great, what do you have? And he said, here's a picture, and I held it up. It was, remember the little 8mm slides held up to the light? And it was a picture of Snoopy playing a player piano. And I said, this is great. And he says, you can use this on your cover. I said, how much is this gonna cost? And he put his arm around me and he said, when you get rich and famous, just buy us all a piano. Which meant it was free. And Mr. Schultz, he said, Mr. Schultz likes your music. We love jazz, obviously, because of Vince Guaraldi. And I'm talking too much. So anyway, let's go on to a song that I wrote called Blues for Beagles. This is on my new CD. By the way, the first CD, the name that he let me use, Snoopy, the title of it is called Good Grief. Good Grief, it's Jim Martinez. The album I just came out with recently is called Good Grief, it's still Jim Martinez. So we're gonna do Blues for Beagles, and then we're gonna do a medley of Castro Fade to the Wind, and then Linus and Lucy. Let me keep track of time. I know I just talk way too much. So, but I appreciate you all being here, by the way. Thank you so much. What a great, great turnout. So, I'll play a couple more tunes here for you. Oh, Bill Carter. He's going to come up and play a tune, and you're going to get a chance to hear him. He's going to play, do you want to introduce your own song? Pebble Beach theme. He's going to be talking it while we're bringing the choir up. I want him to share some things about it. So you got your own music? Okay, give a hand to Reverend Bill Carter.
Thank you. It's good to be here. This is one of those Vince Guaraldi tunes that you heard, but you always wondered what it was called. It's called Pebble Beach.
Thank you, Bill, very much. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, we have just a couple more for you. We're going to invite a vocalist, my vocalist from Sacramento. Her name is Margie Rebecca Ruiz, and she sings on my CD, and it's a beautiful song. It makes her cry every time. It's called A Boy Named Charlie Brown, written by Rod McEwen. And so give a hand to Margie.
Like the shadows of the morning, climb up to the August afternoon. Charlie has a way of picking up the day just by walking slowly in a room. Maybe it's a kind magic
Did you cry again? My mom cried again. So we have time for one more song, and then we're going to bring, Bill will come up and say a couple of words. Anyway, thank you again for being here. It's such an honor to be in the position of, I can't even say, you don't fill anybody's shoes, but I just want to say it's an honor to be here where Vince was 50 years ago. It's just a huge honor. So with enough said, let's play one more song. This is a song written by Vince Guaraldi. It's on the CD, and it's called Surfin' Snoopy.